Even if we were to ask, well, what was your motivation? Why did you choose as you chose? Doesn't matter. Even if it could be shown by some test that you were absolutely true, doesn't matter. There's probably some implicit bias at work. Truth doesn't matter. Impact, not intent. The impact was racist because somebody was able to write racism into the story, and that's all it takes. This is the woke ideology. Everything must be analyzed through power in this way. In other words, everything must be reduced to a simple understanding, a cartoonish understanding of systemic power that thinks that everything that happens intentionally must have racism in it, and that everything that happens that produces disparate outcomes, even if we can find no evidence of racism, must be the result of racism that is tucked somewhere in all the cracks and corners. It's a weird room to say this in, but it's the racism of the gaps. I know that many of you have probably heard that God of the gaps thing here or there. It's the racism of the gaps. We don't know why the outcomes are different. Must be racism. That's systemic racism. That's how you must analyze the world. And I've focused on racism, but we could do the same thing with sex, with gender, with sexuality, with ability status, with fat status, with that exasperated, etc. Intersectionally. As a whatever, you have to whatever, you're whatever. You know, as a black man, I have to acknowledge that I'm black and therefore I have a certain understanding of systemic oppression, but as a man, I have to defer to my female colleagues. You know, we've heard these things before. That's called engaging positionality. The rule in intersectionality as a practice is that intersectionality must be intentionally engaged. That's how you must think about the world. If you grok this, then we can talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Until this, you don't get it. So when I tell you that diversity doesn't mean what we think it means, like let's bring in people with different perspectives. They think that the only different perspectives that could possibly matter are ones rooted in identity. But that's not even good enough. That's not even good enough. We have racial minorities, we have women, we have whatever in this room, and I guarantee you, you're the wrong kind of diversity. You are the wrong kind of diversity because you don't have authentic diversity. Authentic diversity is that which is in line with, that agrees with, that has the sophisticated understanding of the critical theory of identity that's in play. You have to be a critical theorist of identity or you have false consciousness. There's another idea that sort of traces back to Marx. Marx said it once, didn't really buy it, but the critical theory school really loved it. Engels used it a couple of times, wasn't their thing. False consciousness became big under the Frankfurt School, not under Marx, but it did originate there. So you have false consciousness. You have internalized the racist system. You've internalized the patriarchal system. You've internalized the heteronormative and homophobic system. You've internalized cisnormativity and transphobia. You've internalized these myriad words. You've internalized them. And so if you disagree with the critical theory of identity as it applies, you are the wrong kind of diversity. So diversity means hiring critical theorists. That's what diversity means. And if you don't understand that they think in terms of power, you think I'm crazy when I tell you that. I'm not crazy. That's what they mean. Diversity means uniformity of critical theory thought with different colored faces. They need somebody who can give the authentic lived experience of being black, an authentic lived experience of being a black woman, an authentic lived experience of being Latino, an authentic lived experience of being a gay Latino. They need the authentic lived experience where authentic means agrees with critical theory. That's what it means. And you can't possibly believe me until you understand that they think only in terms of systemic power. And we could go into a great deal of detail about how there is much value to identity if we had time and were interested. Sorry, not any diversity. There's much value to diversity. You have this expertise, I have that expertise. You came from the farm, I came from the city. We have different perspectives that bear on something. We can even understand how that can apply sometimes in terms of the experience of being a certain identity group in certain contexts. But those contexts are contextual and fluid and complicated and move through time. That's not how critical theory sees it. It's very straightforward. It's very cut and dry. It's very cartoonish. And if you don't agree, you're the wrong kind of diversity.
It's funny because as I was reading your book, I was kind of considering when is the first time I was sort of aware of the color of my skin or that there were differences. And my earliest childhood memory of it is, growing up, I had two best friends. One was Hispanic, and one was Black. And, we were best friends all throughout elementary school where everyone's allowed to be in everybody's classes. And then we take state testing exams.
Right.
And I scored higher. Right. So I was then placed in middle school, and I know you guys have a different system here in the UK, but call it age 11 is when they start separating you based on how you test.
Right.
And so in my class, I had all white people just because I tested higher, and all of my classmates happened to be white. And at that moment, the Black girls started bullying me in school, saying that I was acting white. Right? Because I had friends.
Right.
So actually the earliest introduction to me of being aware of my skin color was introduced to me by Black people.
Right.
And then we started learning a bit about Black history, and I started being told that, the reason why Black people are not testing as well or doing that well is because of the history
Right.
of slavery and racism, not based off of our decisions or how we're, how much effort we're putting into our schoolwork. So I just think that that's kind of an interesting consideration.
Yeah.
Because if white people are supposedly the problem,
Right.
right? Why did I first feel that when I was bullied for my skin color, it was actually coming to me from Black people, and this idea of what it means to be Black and what it means to be white, and that's
Right.
what they're teaching.
And also what they actually mean by this.
Right.
So one of the things is attaching certain characteristics to white people, which therefore Black people shouldn't wish to attain. I mean, we see this madness. I give example after example in the book of people saying that the truth is basically a Western white concept. It's like white people who came up with the idea of truth.
Right.
Therefore, Black people shouldn't have any truck with this.
Right.
What?
Well, this is how you start to get to now they're considering in the SATs, which is our standardized testing to get into university, diversity scoring. Like
Right.
they're just going to start giving you points based off of the color of your skin.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the institutionalization of all of this is kind of
This is, and the worst thing about this is, I mean, when I started looking into this a few years ago, I thought, okay, this is crazy stuff happening on campus. Then the campus broke out into the real world, and the most shocking thing for me has been the discovery of the major corporations, private and public companies, government, where all of this stuff is happening as well. It's not like, this isn't just a problem at Berkeley.
I was asked to go on Channel 4 News from Soho in London to talk about the vigil that was going on there and to talk about Orlando and so on. Turned out that one of the other guests was Owen Jones. And I said, it's fine, go ahead. And then I got a call saying, actually, sorry, we can't have you on because Owen Jones won't appear alongside you. And so I said, well, this is absolutely typical that somebody, it's what I said earlier, it's only ever really about politics with these people. That's all they're after in this.
Yeah.
And if they can use sexuality, they will. But here is a person who on Sunday complained there weren't enough LGBT voices. I happen to be gay, and I was asked on the program the next day, and he got me cancelled.
Yeah.
Because I'm the wrong type of gay. I'm not the far left Islamophobia is the main problem person. I'm somebody who for years has said there is a real problem here and people need to wake up to it.
Well, blow my bloomers, we don't need the BBC press office anymore. We can sack those because Gary Lineker is the new press officer for the BBC, confirming that a woman called Alex is going to take over from Sue Barker. This is a lady of colour who is 35 years old. She's a footballer. Has she qualified to present a TV show? Who cares? It's all about doing the job. And of course, for the BBC, the job is about ticking boxes. And Gary Lineker says if we have a problem with that, that's about us, not about her. I don't have a problem with her, but I do have a problem with the BBC sacking Sue Barker.
Sue Barker, the host, and team captains Phil Tufnell and Matt Dawson have all been sacked by the BBC.
Ageist and racist.
Yeah, they're all getting on a bit, and they're all white. So you wonder, given that the BBC is so now committed to diversity, spending £100 million on it, are these people being sacked because of the colour of their skin, do you think, Nigel?
I think they're the wrong type of people to do it. I think Sue Barker's the wrong type of woman. She's old, she's white, she's middle class. I think Phil Tufnell's the wrong sort of working class guy. and Matt Dawson is the wrong sort of guy who's in his mid-40s. If it was Gary Lineker, they would probably sack him, but he's untouchable. I think, what happened next? Well, what happened next is viewers are going to get very, very fed up about this. I spoke to a couple of my relations today. I don't watch this program. I used to watch it as a kid, as I'm sure we all did. 3 or 4 million people watch this program. I would say the BBC are taking on this diversity thing. You've got to look back that Sue Barker is one of the dying breed. She is a 64-year-old female in television. Now, she was quite groundbreaking. 24 years ago, when she took over the show, she was one of the first female sports presenters and took a lot of grief for it. She's been good at her job. She's still good at her job. She's described it as a dream job. People are smugly saying, oh, she'll be okay. They'll look after her. She's got other work. She's got 2 weeks fronting Wimbledon. She's worth a lot more than that. Now, the BBC are so blinded by trying to get diversity. Charlotte Moore said this is the most, she's the, used to be director of content. Now she's the chief content officer, whatever. She's the top woman at the BBC. She has said that diversity is everything, and that's what they're going for, and everything is about diversity.
Okay.
However, everything's about diversity, but you're getting rid of a top female presenter.
Can I put this in, Nigel? Okay, let's put. I'm going to propose this. The sacking of Sue Barker is racist, sexist, and ageist.
I wouldn't disagree with that. This must be the only time when 3 people have been sacked from the BBC. When the BBC said they're being sacked because they're doing a good job. They, in the statement they put out, the BBC admitted that they were doing a fantastic job, that they make this program popular. So why did you get rid of them? Because they don't fit the profile the BBC want.
Well, there you go.
What are you doing?
Britain wouldn't be Britain without refugees.
No, don't.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.